Hi, this is Analytics, and welcome to another lesson. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts or questions in the comments. Let's get started. In this video, we're going to learn how to add calculated columns in Power Query based on examples, which means you won't have to write any code. And we're going to use the file for this lesson, which is this one. In this case, I'm going to use Power Query in Excel, but it works just the same way in Power BI. And let's load this to Power Query. There you go. In this table, it's a simple table on sales. And I have, for example, the sales key, which is the unique number for each sale, and the date of the sale, the quantity sold in each sale, the unit price of the product that was sold, and the quantity of returned products, and the unit cost. So very simple information. And suppose you want to change the format of the dates. You have date and time. The data type in the date key column is date and time. And suppose you want to change it. You could use the resources in Power Query, or you could use M functions to write a code and change the format the way you want. Or there's an easier way to do this kind of task. For example, I'm in the Add Columns tab. I will choose column from examples. This is to add a new column. Only this column will not be created based on functions. It will be, well, of course, Power Query will run its M functions in the backstage, but you won't have to write these functions. You will only let Power Query know what you want through examples that you're going to give it, and then we will expect Power Query to understand the pattern and then replicate this pattern to the entire column. And so let's do it. Clicking the down arrow, I can select from all columns or from selection, which means I can use all of the columns in the table to pass information on to the example I'm going to create for the new column, or I can only select a few of them. But actually, selecting either of them is not going to make a lot of difference, because if I select from all columns, then by default, Power Query will give me all the columns selected in this little checkbox on top of each column. Or if I select from selection, it will give me the chance to select what columns I want for the example. So at the end of the day, both, let me cancel it out. So both choices here will lead me to the same place. And I only have to select the columns that I need for the examples. In this case, I will only change the formatting of the date key column, so I don't need the other ones. I'm going to uncheck sales key and sales quantity and all the others. Or either, although I'm not going to use them, I can keep them checked. It's not actually going to make a whole difference to me. So if you're not sure of which of these two options to choose, just pick all columns, and then you will be good. Because when you create your example, Power Query will take care of deciding what data is going to be used for or not, to understand the pattern of the example you are giving. So for the additional column, I will give it a new name, and I'm going to call it new formatting. Click enter, and now I will start giving Power Query the example of what I want. And I'll double click the first row, and Power Query will already by default give me a whole set of formats that I could be using, but I want a custom one. So I will call it, let me think of a format that I could use. I will go like this: April 2 and dash 2008. So I will hit enter, and then let's check if Power Query correctly understood the pattern. And for the second row, it's right. Well, actually, the second row is the same date as the first one, so it is expected to be right. But look, the third row, it was supposed to be April 3. It's giving me April 2. So this is not right. Power Query didn't understand the pattern to this point. So I will click this third row, and I will double click actually and correct it. And then let's see if Power Query will understand. Instead of April 2, I need April 3, enter. And now it looks like in row 5, for example, April 6, it is correct, April 6. So it starts looking like Power Query understood the pattern. For May 3, it's showing, well, it's correct throughout April. But when you get to May 3rd, it is showing me May 3, because look, it looks like Power Query misunderstood it, because typically months are represented only by the first 3 letters. For example, April is normally represented as APR. January is typically represented as JAN, and February FEB. So it looks like Power Query understood that I wanted to show the name of the first 3 letters of the month name plus AL. In this case, April is APR, which is the first 3 letters, and then IL. Power Query understood this IL as a suffix, so something that it was supposed to add after the 3 first letters of each month. So in May, it added IL to the 3 first letters, and in October, it took the first 3 letters, OCT, and then it added another IL. So it did not understand correctly the pattern that I wanted to use. So to correct that, I have to look for a row in which the pattern is wrong, and I'm going to correct it to help Power Query know what is the wrong pattern, what is the right pattern that I want. And in May-il, I will click May-il and then remove the IL and then press enter. And now let's look through the entire column to see if now it's right. And you can check that in October, it is also correct. So it looks like at this point, Power Query was able to understand the pattern you actually wanted. And then you see that you did not have to write any M function. And again, if you have been following our playlist from the beginning, you know that in Power Query, we use the M language instead of the DAX language. So in Power Query, we use the M language and M functions. And although you did not have to write any M function, Power Query did it for you. And this is the function that Power Query created. And this function right here is translating to the M language the pattern they wanted to create. And if you had to write this function, you see that it's kind of a complicated function. And Power Query created for you through the examples you gave it. Now, if you click OK, your new column is created and added to your original table. And this is a cool way to work, although in my opinion, this is not the safest or the best way to work. If you have a pattern that is very easy, so you may be willing to use it. But if you have something more complicated, my advice is please be very careful, because like whenever we are working with these patterns and these examples, we have to scroll through the entire column or most of the column just to make sure our pattern was actually understood correctly by Power Query. And if you have a column that has millions of rows or a few hundreds of thousands of rows, going through all of this data to make sure that the pattern was actually understood and correctly used by Power Query could be a hassle. And so that is why, in my opinion, using the custom column feature is best and it's safer for you, although it could be a little more complicated because you would have to deal with a few of the M functions. But these are different ways to work. And with time, as you get more experience, you will see what is best for you. Now let's try a second example. And in this example, look, in this column, I have the sales quantity and I have the unit price. And in this example, suppose in each of the sales, you only sold one product per sale, a single product per sale. For example, in row 55, you sold 10 units of a certain product, and the product price is, the unit price is $299.99. In this case, if you want to calculate the total sales amount, all you have to do is multiply 10, the number of products sold, by the unit price, supposing you only sold one product in each of the sales. And this is very easy. So let's see if given Power Query an example of how to calculate the sales amount, if it's going to use the example and properly fill out each row in the new column. Let's use columns from examples. And in this column, I need the sales amount. And you know that using the first row, my sales amount would be 10 multiplied by 79.95, which would result in 799.5. And I will press enter. And well, Power Query did not understand what I wanted, so I'm going to do it again this time. 10 multiplied by 75.99 would be 759.9. And well, it looks like Power Query understood it correctly. And at this point, well, you have to be very careful because look, you can see that checking the first rows, it looks like the pattern was understood, but look, in this row, it was supposed to be only 1799.5, and Power Query added this little decimal part, and here again, and here again. I didn't need this decimal part, so 20 times 21 was supposed to be 420, and it's given me 105. It's not right. To me, that's the problematic point about using columns from examples. It's because you can never be sure if the pattern was correctly understood by Power Query. And sometimes to give it many different examples, it's a lot of work. So maybe most time, in my view, most times it's just easier to write the code using a custom column, and we will see custom column soon. It's just easier and it's less of a hassle than using the columns from examples. And I'm not going over all the rows, and in case you really want to use it, my advice is go over, if not all of the column, but most of the rows in the column, because you could think that the pattern is right based on the first rows, but if you keep scrolling down, you can see a problem that you didn't think Power Query returned to you. So be very careful about using columns from example. If you have something that is really easy, it could be useful for you, but if you need something more complex, please be careful. I'm going to remove I'm going to remove the last two steps, and this is the column from examples feature in Power Query. It is very cool. You don't see a lot of experienced people using it because of the problems I just showed you. So I just wanted you to know that this resource exists. It could be useful in simple circumstances, but if you need something more complex, please be very careful because it could ruin your model. And if you like this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, and share this content with your friends, and leave a comment below, share your thoughts or questions in the comments. And in the next video, we're going to see conditional column, and we will soon get to custom columns, which in my opinion is the best one, although it might be the hardest one because you will have to write your own functions, but you will have full control of the calculations and the calculated columns you're going to create. See you in the next lesson.